Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for being patient while we worked out some kinks on our side. Our concierge is going to be out for the foreseeable future, dealing with a family emergency, and so we're trying to keep up on our end, and certainly apologize to all of you. But hey, we're coming to midway through September. Q4 is upon us. You know, I was just thinking about, I just shared with my team this morning in our leadership meeting, Q4 for us is going to be nailing down our systems, just really trying to get everything dialed in to just crush our spring. And so that's kind of like where our mindset has been. And I'm really excited for today. You guys are going to hear stories from Danny Horanyi, from Ryan Grant, from Josh Mettle. They're each going to share with you that marketing question that we no doubt always get. And if you haven't gotten it yet, I promise you will at some point. And that is co-marketing. You know, you reach out to a realtor, maybe you're making your calls, and one of the very first things that they go to is, in one shape or another, in one form or another, what's in it for me, right? And they ask you, hey, well, you know, so-and-so offered to co-market with me on Zillow, and how much are you willing to spend, right? As if, you know, that's where your worth is tied. But there are situations, so, you know, candidly, I used to be a person that would just say no. Like I just was not a slope. I felt like it was a slippery slope that I didn't want to go down. And I would just hardcore say no. And what I was, through the, you know, the arc of my career, what I became open to is that I was missing opportunities where it did make sense. And so what we'll try to demonstrate today is different stories from Ryan, Josh, Danny, who were all or are all at the top of their game in origination, and no doubt get this question very frequently, have co-marketed with realtors successfully and non-successfully. And what we hope is to give you a takeaway so that you know how to address this in a really tactical, effective way with your real estate agents. And what I'll ask is, you guys are going to have questions as Ryan goes through his story, or Danny, or Josh. And what I will commit to is just making sure that at the end of this, we've got a good 15 solid minutes of Q&A. So hold those questions to the end. Please do take notes as you go through, and we'll ask those questions at the end. Lastly, those of you that are not on camera, can you please turn on your camera and be present for the meeting? Please try to dedicate this full hour to your business. When we show up here at Triibe, we want you to truly show up. We're dedicated to spending this hour, making sure that we're pouring into you guys and making sure that you get the best of us. We just want the same in return. So I would encourage you guys, if you can, please turn on your video, be present for this. And with that, I'll let you guys take it away. Who wants to go first? Danny, Ryan, Josh, good morning to all of you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'll kick it off here, because what I really want to share with this group is the mindset shift that it required of me in order to do what we're going to share with you today. And, you know, I want to kind of go back to the beginning of my mortgage career. And I really had I think a pretty common perspective of what it meant to partner with, or not really partner. I'm using that term now. At the time, I wasn't professionally mature enough to think of myself as a true partner to a real estate agent or to a CPA financial planner. I thought of myself as a vendor to them, and that they were my customer and I was there to serve them and be in service to them. And so from that orientation, if you think about it, I was down here and they were up here. And in the beginning of my career, that made a lot of sense to me, because I needed those referral partners desperately. Like that was the only way I was going to be able to feed my family, you know, put myself on a path of financial freedom. And so I had this mentality of service provider, vendor, and it was very much coming from a place of scarcity and fear. And what happened, and I'll fast forward a little bit, you know, ultimately my team, I was a member and one of the partners in a very large team. We were ultimately spending about $100,000 a month in marketing across our entire suite of marketing solutions, including events and even co-marketing. So what I want to share, kind of zooming to the end a little bit, is to say it's okay to co-market. And there's definitely times to do that and where it's appropriate. But what I want to offer from that journey that I went through is that if you are going to make that choice, come at it from the perspective that you have other choices. You're not hostage to this relationship. And that if ultimately, after evaluating some of the other solutions that Ryan and Josh in particular, and Mark, I know you have actually something to share here too, so I would love to have your voice come into this as well, that if you were to evaluate ways to move yourself into be in balance with those referral partner relationships so that you're being extraordinarily strategic about where you're spending your money, and you're doing it in an effort not just to be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have to make this spend because somebody else will do it if I don't. And if I don't, I'm going to lose all my business. Like they're going to stop working with me, and then they're going to tell others to stop working with me. And all of a sudden I'm going to be, working back at Starbucks. Right. So like, we don't want that for you. And it's not true. That story's not true in my experience. So what I'm offering right now is this perspective shift from vendor service provider to partner. And that partnership, if done really well, partnerships, just like any relationships, involve really healthy conflict and healthy communication. And what Josh and Ryan are going to offer today are tactics that you can bring to the table that will allow you to have that conversation in a way that will hopefully resonate. Because the purpose of all marketing, all co-marketing, should be the joint development of your business, their business, and then the third thing, which is the business that you build together. So all of those things should be served by the decisions that you're making together when you pivot away from co-marketing. So, but I'm just being really vulnerable with this group to share that I was not ready to challenge my referral partners in the beginning. It took a complete shift of process of thinking to say, I'm an entrepreneur. I happen to work in mortgage, but the thing I am first is a business builder and a business owner. And because that is what I am, not just somebody that provides loans, I can have interactions with other business builders and business owners in a way that just loan officers can't. And what Josh and Ryan are going to touch on today, and I'll kind of throw in some color commentary and maybe bring some other elements of my story as they go through it, is to say, you can do this. And that place of fear, what I will share, last thing before I continue to ramble on, and this is something that's really important to take away. Of that $100,000 that our team, my two business partners and I were spending monthly, probably only about half of it was effective, even after we went through the diligent process of evaluating and measuring. And if you don't know this about me already, I am a data nerd. I love tracking. I love feedback loops. I love constant and never-ending improvement of processes that stems from curiosity. And so even with all of the work that went into refining those processes, we were still probably only about 50% efficient. And the funny part about that is, that's again a very embarrassing share. I couldn't tell you on a month-to-month basis which 50% was the right spend. What I did know is that by taking action and consistent action on the marketing front and doing it in a tactical way that had the intention of growing our business, the business of our referral partners, and then the collective third thing, which is our relationship, by doing that consistently and with intention and not just out of fear, we were able to build an amazing mortgage practice. So with that said, I'll kick it over to Ryan and Josh.
Yeah, thanks for that share, Danny. I think the moral of the story is we just need to spend $100,000 a month, right? That kind of what we should all be doing.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
I have so many questions about what he said. I think I have more questions than answers, but we'll get there.
Selective hearing. So my kind of maturation of this has happened over the last 10 years. I remember the first time that I sat down with a real estate agent and started asking, hey, can we work together? Can I have your business? And the first thing I heard was, well, we're working with a lender now who, pays for our Zillow spend, or, pays for it, and then fill in the blank. And they said, would you be willing to do that? And I didn't have the money at the time, right? I didn't have the revenue. So I was like, well, I can't really do that, but I can do everything else. They're like, well, we have a good relationship. He's doing that. And so I had this fear around being asked that question. And then as I grew my business and I had the revenue, well, then I just started saying yes. I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely do that. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to get the Realtor.com leads. He's going to get the Zillow leads. This person's going to get open house leads. And so I was like, okay, great. we'll just take those. And that never works, in case anyone was wondering. I'll fast forward to the end of that one. The return on investment's never there when that happens. And over time, and as Danny was talking about, as I grew more confident in who we were and what we did as a business, then I realized that we are actually more valuable to them without paying a dollar, right? Like if they didn't use us, their business would suffer, right? If they used anybody else. Now, it's one thing for me to know that. It's quite another thing for me to say that, right? I didn't come out and just flat out tell people that. So, but what I did was I shifted my perspective. So when I went to those meetings and I heard someone say, well, look, everything you do is phenomenal. Like we love the presentation, we love the client experience, we love all that stuff. But here's the catch, right? I have this lender who pays X. Like, we'd love to work with you, but would you be willing to take that on? And my response now is, let's assume Danny's the realtor. I say, Danny, if my passion is really growing businesses, right? And the fortunate byproduct of that is that we get to help a lot of families, buy and sell real estate and make good financial decisions. So I wouldn't be a really good business practitioner if I didn't look at financially viable opportunities. And, so I'd love to ask you some questions about that marketing strategy. Like, so of that Zillow spend or fill in the blank spend, what's your return on investment on that, right? How many families are you serving? And what's your time cost on that? Like how many leads are you following up with that go nowhere? And more often than not, what you'll find is they have no idea. Like they simply are just spending money hoping that it's working out, and as long as they make more than they spend, then they think that everything's okay. But when you can really get them to realize, like, I guess I don't really know how it's working, or you'll probably get, oh, it's working well. We're closing deals. We closed 3 last month or whatever, and say, look, if it makes sense, right, and we have the opportunity to serve some of those clients right along with you, then I think it'd be something we want to do. However, right, we don't, I've made the mistake in the past of leading with, co-marketing or marketing dollars or expense. And what I found is that when the relationship is built on that, as soon as that starts to become kind of a negative drag or a not a good return on investment, and I have to come to you with the uncomfortable conversation of, hey, Josh, we spent $3,000 a month now. It's been 6 months. We're about $18,000 negative on this. We haven't had any transactions close. We got to turn this thing off. In my experience, what I found is the relationship ends there, right? Because it was built on a foundation of marketing dollars, not partnership and tangible value. So what I'd like to suggest is, why don't we work together on a few transactions just to see if you are a good fit for us, and if we're a good fit for you, if we have some synergy there, like if we both believe the same things, we're both paddling in the same direction. And if we feel that, then I would love nothing more than to help invest in the growth of your business and ours collectively. And then what we want to do is we want to set some parameters for that partnership. One is that I'm going to make a commitment to you, Megan, that I'm not going to be everything to everyone. Most loan officers run all over the country, all over the county, trying to get a bunch of realtors to send them business, right? So they spread themselves super thin. So they're a little bit to a lot of people, but they're never the right things to the right people. So I've made a commitment that I'm only going to work with certain real estate partners, and we're going to put our time, our money, our energy, and our resources. And as you've seen through our presentation, that's a lot, right? We have a massive team that puts all their effort into helping you grow your business. So because of that, we can't really work with real estate partners who aren't dedicated to working with us. And so I'm not going to come in and say, look, we need to be your only lender today, because that would be inappropriate. It'd be like asking you to marry me as soon as I meet you at a bar, right? But I want you to know that.
Wait, Ryan, that's not
That's
smart.
a bad thing, Mark. Yeah, we'll work on that later. It's a separate coaching call. So I want you to know that I'm going to work towards that with you. And over time, my goal is that we have that relationship where, it's just us and just you, and we're really growing a business practice. And our best partners who we do, we have a partner that we did 60 deals so far year to date together. And me and that partner are day in and day out, week in and week out. Like, we run our businesses really as one. And that's what I want to work towards with you if you're open to it. And what that looks like is team meeting schedule, right? So we're going to be at all your team meetings, either virtually or in person. Open house and listing access, right? Having our co-branded flyers there, scripting your agents on how to get people over to us during open houses. We want to make sure that we have the ability to work all of your lead channels. We want to marry our CRMs, right? So they sync together. So when the lead comes in, it comes to both of us and we figure out what our cadence is. We want to get our co-branding in place, right? So our gifts, our emails, our process, everything has us collaboratively in sync. And I don't want a client to see us without you, and vice versa, right? I want us to really have that level of partnership where we collaborate at such a high level that it's a 1 + 1 = 3, 4, 5 situation. So if you're open to that, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then I think we should have the secondary business partnership planning meeting. We can get clear on what we're going to do, and then we can set expectations. Because the number one reason why real estate relationships and lender relationships fall apart is that expectations aren't set, so they can never be met or achieved, right? And so my expectation would be, if we're spending X, that we have a 20 basis point return on investment, not just with you, but with any marketing strategy that we're using. So if I'm spending $2,000 a month, the goal is to get, what is that number? Somebody do quick math, $1 million in funded volume. Right, so $2,000, we look for about $1 million in total loan funded volume, which in Orange County is probably going to be about 2 transactions a month. How are you doing with your current lender in that world? And I already know the answer because I've already looked it up, right? You can use MMI or any other thing. So I already know how much business they're doing with their current lender. So this is my opportunity to see if they're telling the truth or not, right? Are they, do they have integrity? Are they going to tell you the right answer, or are they going to tell you what you want to hear? If they,
RG,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll hold all questions to the end, but I feel like this is important to tackle in the moment. In some cases, in most cases, in my opinion, they just don't know. They're not out of integrity. They just have no clue.
Well, then that's the answer I want to hear, right? Which would be, you know what, I actually don't know what that number is. I think we track it all. I can look it up and I can find out, right? But I promise you, I've had people be like, oh, they get like 3 or 4 deals a month. And I look and they've got 3 or 4 deals that year. And so maybe they just think, right, because they're throwing them over the fence. They just don't know what's happening with them, right? Because they don't work as partners, right? They see their lender as a resource to fund a loan, not as a business partner to help them grow their business. And you have to make that shift, as Danny said in the beginning. And so you get all those commitments, right? You get commitments of meeting schedule, open house access, CRM synchronization, all the things I discussed. You get them to agree to all those things. You get them to agree that you're not just going to get the leads from the lead source you're investing in, right? But access to everything. And then you measure it, right? So the first thing I say is, when we start this, again, let's try and do a few deals first before we start. That'll probably take 30 to 60 days. And in the interim, I want to have those team meetings. I want to get to know each other. I want to have the consistency there. So let's plan to start this in 60 days. And then at that time, we'll do a 90-day trial period. At the end of that 90 days, we're going to reconvene. So we'll put a meeting on the calendar just to do a ROI discovery on how we're doing. And we'll sit down and we'll see how it's going. And my commitment to you there is not just to say, hey, where are my referrals, right? Because that would be me being a resource to your team. My commitment to you at that 90 days is to say, how are we doing as a partner? Like, how are we helping you in every aspect of your business, not just the spend that we're spending on, right? We'll look at how many leads that your team referred to us, and we're going to look at how many leads our team was able to refer to you, right? And in the beginning, just to be clear, that's going to be pretty one-sided, because the way that we refer business back to you is through our clients, right? Through CPAs, financial planners, connections with their company, right? That will increase and continue over time. But we want to assess the partnership. We want to assess the return on investment. And ultimately, we want to look and see, is this the best place for these dollars to be spent? Right? Just because we have been doing it doesn't mean that we have to continue. Right? We don't want to use the sunken cost theory. Well, we already have this much in, let's just keep going. Right? If there's a better way to pivot them, or if we have a better strategy or an idea, would you be open to that? Yeah. I mean, no one's ever said no to that question. Right? So then at the 90-day mark, you meet, and then at that 90-day mark, you're really going to look at it. It's more of a belief in the partnership at that point. Like, have they been referring business? Have they been referring all business, organic business, putting you in touch with their database? Have they done all the things that you asked them to do, connected the database? Do you feel like a part of the team? And if not, I urge you to pull the ripcord, because it's not going to get better. Right? Like it's like a honeymoon, the honeymoon period of a relationship. Very often is the third year better than the first 3 months. Now, if the first 3 months is awesome, then great. You have a pretty good runway, and hopefully that continues. But the most excitement, the most connection, the most kind of blinding flash of the obvious moment is going to be those first 90 days. Like how excited are they in their team about that partnership? And then the 6-month mark, is going to be when you really start to look at, okay, now we should have funded volume. Right? We should be able to look and see how many transactions we've closed, how many families we've helped, revenue return. And guys, that 20 basis point number, it can vary. It's not a hard and fast. If you control your profitability of your P&L and you really get the majority of the profit of a loan, that number could potentially be a little bit higher. If you're just a loan officer working off 100 basis points or whatever your comp plan is, that number could be a little bit lower. So it's not always a hard and fast number. But at that 6-month mark, you just want to do it every quarter. Right? You want to keep analyzing it, keep reviewing it, and it's really a trajectory thing. Like, are you going in the right direction, or do you feel like you're just pushing money out continually, and every month you see it go out, you cringe because it's not there? And I'll tell you, I've stayed in realtor relationships where I've lost money just because I thought it was cool to work with that realtor because they did a lot of business. And me looking back at that version of myself would punch myself right in the face if I was able to do it all over again. Right? Just make business decisions and be open and honest. Yeah.
So there's no world where you think that working with that realtor is good for your brand, and there's something that comes along with that. Just being associated with it gets you other business or influence.
I personally don't. I can see where you're coming from, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you let yourself be taken advantage of, and that person doesn't, like, the ones who really care about you and the ones you want to work with are the ones that say, look, I know we haven't been able to get you a lot of deals lately. I know that our team's been struggling. I feel bad. Let's put this on pause, like your spend on pause, until we catch up. Like, I've had that conversation, I would love to say a lot of times, but not a lot of times, but enough times to know that person exists. And those are the business partners you want to work with, because they actually care about you as a business person, right? They care about you as a human being. They don't just think of you as an ATM. Yeah. And then look, then maybe you have that relationship, and so maybe that opens the door to another relationship, and then they take advantage of you the same way because they talk to them. They're like, yeah, they've been paying $2,000 a month for a year, and they may have closed a deal or two, but they're good. Oh, great. I'll take advantage of them that same way. So staying in integrity with your beliefs, like no business professional should spend money on something that doesn't have a good return. So I'll stop if anybody has any questions. I think a good pivot to this would be, if it's not working and you see it not working, then do what Josh is about to teach you, because that's kind of where we're headed here. But what questions does anybody have, or comments or feedback?
I
Let's
just
hold
want to,
them until after Josh, if that's okay. I have a bunch of them though, Ryan, if nobody else
Okay.
does. Andy, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I do want to acknowledge what was coming up for me as I was trying to be, empathetic to kind of this full spectrum of those that are kind of on different steps of the path, Ryan, is that one thing that was coming up for me is that, the commitment of Triibe is to help our members really focus on the 23 areas of life and business. And this topic touches a lot of, and the way Ryan just described it, it touches a lot of those 23 areas, managing your database, tracking your numbers, lead conversion, your marketing and branding strategy. We're really, really touching into a lot of the pillars of the 23 areas of life and business. But what I'll offer, Ryan, and I struggle with this a lot too, is that, the state that your business is really in this optimized place where, there's a tremendous amount of confidence. And so Josh, maybe as you're going through this, if you can rewind us back to like step one, step two, because I love that we have this place. And I know you're also evolving it too, Ryan. It's even that's not yet perfect, and it's being worked on. But what I would hate to have is any of you come away from this thinking, I'm not up for that challenge, right? Like I can't, my business is here and it's so far away from here that I don't know how to map the two together.
Well, let
Really good point, Danny.
me start by kind of telling a quick story, Danny. I think this will land. I had an opportunity to speak at the Utah Association of Mortgage Professionals last Friday. And right after me was Renee Rodriguez. Does everybody know Renee and the Amplify? Yep. And it was really interesting to watch a professional at work and an amateur before the professional. In case you're guessing, I was the amateur and he was the professional. And when I got on the stage, the first thing I noticed is that my microphone was really tingy. And I thought that it was because, sometimes if you get out in front of the speakers, you can get some feedback. There was lunch being served. There were servers coming in and out. There was a lot of going on and distracting. And there were a lot of, my projector remote wasn't working. So I controlled none of the variables in that equation. And I muddled through a presentation. And then at the very end, my real moment of influence where I was gonna that mic drop moment where I had the opportunity to really influence my crowd, I dropped the ball because I was so distracted because of the noise and the plates and the fact that my projector remote didn't work. And in hindsight, what I realized was I was only about 60% mentally into the presentation I was giving, and I was about 40% out of the presentation because I was worried about all these variables that I didn't have control on. Now, when Renee gets on the stage, he immediately noticed that there's something wrong with the microphone. He stops. He asked the AV dude to get the microphone fixed. He said, and servers, you're doing a great job, but do me a favor. I'm going to do a 3-minute exercise with the group where I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. And by the end of the 3 minutes, please have all the plates cleared, or please stay out of the room until I'm done with this section of the presentation, because I don't want to jeopardize anybody missing anything. And he didn't use a PowerPoint presentation, so he didn't have to worry about the variable of the remote. And as I'm listening to Ryan talk, what he's doing is the Renee Rodriguez pro move. He is identifying all of the variables and he's taking them under his control. So let me relate this to this equation of doing a joint marketing spend. If I'm a rookie, I go, yes, how much money do you want? Me? Really? Oh, this is great. Here's my money. Not controlling any of the variables, and therefore you lose influence and control over the results. What Ryan's saying is, let's not do that. Let's take the Renee Rodriguez approach and let's actually think through what are the variables that's going to make this joint marketing spend successful. Well, it's going to be me knowing your realtors who are actually going to be taking those leads. It's going to be able to track those leads. It's going to be able for us to understand what the conversion rates are. It's going to be us having an ability to track our return on investments. And it's going to be us having joint meetings that are already pre-scheduled for the next 6 months. And Ryan, you probably had some other variables there. Oh, and then you had regular, like all hands on deck check-in meetings where all we're going to do, I'm invited to all your meetings now because we're in a partnership, but at 90 days and then 6 months, at 90 days, we're going to check how many opportunities, how many applications I'm getting. And at 6 months, we're going to see how many closings we have on both ends. And I'm going to help you work through all of these variables and track the return on investment to make sure that you get a good spend. So I really like how Ryan has thought through that. And to be perfectly honest, I think that's why he's been so successful of it. He's controlled all of those variables. Ryan, how does that land for you? Is there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, no, I think the learning curve from being the rookie and doing exactly what you said, it was just like, yeah, I'd love to, right? And just kind of crossing my fingers and hoping it works out. And the evolution to being able to stand firmly and to look, it's not my first rodeo. I've been here. I know what works and what doesn't. And these are the expectations that need to be set. So I didn't put it in that frame of thinking, but I think it's a perfect analogy.
The other thing that you said that I really liked, Ryan, was that you basically know at the 90-day mark if this relationship's going to work out or not. And I was thinking, you put it in a dating context. I put it in an employee standpoint. So if I hire a new employee within 90 days, I'm 100% sure whether they are adding to my business and taking things off of my stress level, or if they're putting things on my stress level. We all know within 90 days. And I think it's just having the courage and, the best way to get married is to, in a business context, but this might not be accurate in a romantic context, but the best way to get married in a business context and start to have a partnership is to pre-plan the divorce. And the way that Ryan did that is he said, hey, at 90 days, we're going to check in and we're going to account for the number of leads. We're going to talk about conversion. We're going to talk about how we can optimize that conversion. And then at 6 months, we're going to make the call. Are we getting the return on investment? So he's actually planned the divorce before the marriage happened, which makes it so much easier when we get there to say, I'm glad we're having this 6 months meeting. I've had one closing. You've had two. This doesn't make sense. So I loved that, Ryan. And I think you can also do that with employees as well, by the way. Hey, at 90 days, we're going to have a check-in. And if everything's working great for both of us, we're going to continue. And if not, then we'll make other plans.
And that second part you said is I had one closing, you've had two. The you've had two part is more important than the I've had one, because not only is it not working for me, it's quite obviously not working for you. And you may not realize that. So I may need to teach you, because I'm the one who keeps the numbers and knows these things and understands this. You're just running around trying to buy and sell homes, right?
Yeah.
So I can help you use your money more wisely. And then Josh goes into his deal from there.
Val, I'm going to pass on your coaching advice there. I think I should not bring that up to my spouse, but thank you very much.
Take your own advice.
Relationship coaches, we are not. All right. So I'm going to go into, when Ryan said he had successfully done this model, I quite honestly said, man, I've never been able to figure it out. I've never been able to make it profitable for me. And in listening to the process that Ryan goes through, it makes sense why I wasn't able to do it profitably, because I never controlled the variables like Ryan did. So my big takeaway is, if you're going to say yes to that, make sure you're controlling those variables and you're taking the lead. I'm going to quickly share with you the alternate to that. So what I do when somebody asks me to do a joint marketing spend is I say, I'm certainly open to that. And let's assume that this is a new relationship. But if that's the basis of our relationship, and I haven't established what I call a foundation, and I haven't helped them establish a marketing foundation, then I feel like I'm doing them a big disservice. I think that the lead, this lead spend share is at a higher floor. and that the first thing that I can do for them, which transfers tremendous value, but has very little cost in terms of budget, is that I can help them make sure that their digital presence and their outreach to their past clients and their conversion on the leads that they're already generating are as high as humanly possible. So I shift immediately into marketing coach. And I just ask them, I say to them when they say, are you willing to do a share with me? I said, I am open to anything that's going to build your and my business. But if we're going to build something tall, I want to have a solid foundation first to make sure we catch everything that we grow together. Are you open to having that discussion first? And they're like, well, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I say, okay, tell me a little bit about your past client strategy. Tell me a little bit about your farming strategy, farming neighborhoods or areas or high-rise condo buildings or whatever you're doing. Tell me a little bit about your lead conversion strategy. What are you using to capture those leads? What's your incubation strategy? And as I kind of dig deeper in this, what I hear most of the time is, yeah, I've been meaning to work on that. Yeah, I've been meaning to work on that. Yeah, I've been worried to work on that. And it's okay. Well, to me, these things are all foundational. So with your permission, I'd like to bring in my marketing team, and I would like to start working on the foundation. During that period of time, you and I will start to see how each other works. You'll see the client experience, how we close, all the things that you would want in a partnership before we really get married. But in the meantime, I'll start sharing value with you by shoring up your foundation. I've never had anybody say, no, that sounds like a bad idea. So then I usually say, okay, cool. So next step is I would like to be introduced to your team, and I would like to take them over a PowerPoint presentation that talks about 3 real world lead generation tactics. And we're going to go to work making sure that we do a digital audit on everything that you and your realtors and your team have. So then I run them through a presentation that is, and we'll tailor this a little bit based on what we see of them online. But we're going to run them through something that's basically like this. And I'm going to do this probably 3x the speed that I would for a normal realtor. But I'll walk them through this presentation and I'll say, look, your database, your past clients, the people who know you, like you, trust you, are easily 3 times as likely to refer you. And all the marketing research that I've done tells me that the return on investment of going back to your past clients, even leads that you've worked with that you didn't convert, so prospects that you have created an impact with, and spending money marketing to those people, every ounce of research that I've done in the marketing world tells me that the return on investment is 3x. So for every $1,000 I would have gotten out of Zillow marketing, I'm going to get $3,000 back out of marketing to a database that I have a relationship with. And the number one way that we do that for our team and our loan officers and other mortgage partners is we help them utilize Facebook and Instagram boosted posts to their past clients and friends. This is an ability for us to get in the news feed of everybody that we upload as a custom audience. And it doesn't matter if they follow our business page. It doesn't matter how much connectivity we've had on my personal page. When you start to create a custom audience based on your past client database and your sphere of influence, we can hand money over to Facebook, and Facebook is going to put our ad in front of those people's eyeballs. And that, I believe, will give you at least a 3x return on investment as it compares to a cold lead marketing source like a Zillow. So how do we do this? We're going to get inside of Facebook, inside what's called their ads manager. And you do this through a business Facebook account. If you don't have a business Facebook account, we're going to help you set one up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to either upload a database of people, past clients, sphere of influence, Or we can even pick an audience. We can say, hey, we want to market this ad in front of people who are interested in houses, property finder, first-time buyer, real estate investing, real estate. So we can create a custom audience. If we don't have a big past client or sphere of influence, we can just pick people that are interested in these things and then get our ads in front of them. We can also pick geographical areas. So we can pick zip codes, and we can go after people who are interested in these topics in these areas. So let's say you wanted to go after an apartment building. Let's say you wanted to go after the University of Utah. Let's say you wanted to go after a specific area of downtown that has high-rise condos. We can go after custom audiences of past clients, as well as, geographical areas and people that are interested in these types of things. And then we create these different custom audiences. These are different groups. You can see, in this particular custom audience, we have 7,900 people that we are marketing to in that group. And you can have multiple custom audiences. We happen to specialize in serving medical professionals. So we go after all these different groups that we do different ads, specific ads to these different niches. And then I'll walk them through, how all the different ways that we can connect with their database. And we do what's called a full digital marketing audit on everything they're doing, which includes their social media, helping them optimize their website so that their content is searchable on Google. We help them solicit reviews on Google and Facebook if they're not doing that. We help them decide what platform they want to advertise on. We'll help them create landing pages. We'll set up Google Analytics for them, and we'll help them create video content. Now, some of this stuff may be over your technology level. That's okay. Pare it down to some simpler things that you can do. And we can also do some future classes on this if you'd like. The other thing we do is we want to get everybody enrolled in HomeBot, because I think HomeBot and the monthly wealth digest is one of the more powerful strategies we can employ with realtors, because I get to now leverage that realtor's past client database. And now I can see all the activity. So we take them through and we show them HomeBot. And then they always say, okay, great. Well, then what are we going to say to these people? Now that we know we should market to our past clients, and we go, oh, well, let me remind you about the Bulletproof Buyer Program. And we walk them through the Bulletproof Buyer Program, and we think about all the content we can create that would be relevant and important to their past clients as it relates to how we're overcoming the challenges in today's real estate market. And so we remind them, or we teach them, if we haven't given them the Bulletproof Buyer presentation, we walk them through this. We talk about Revive, and we talk about how Revive, and I'm going through this fast because I think most of you have seen these presentations before. If not, they've been recorded and we can send them to you. But we talk about how Revive can not only be a buyer's tool, but really, I think it's a listing agent's tool. You see, it's the seller who wants to sell, but is afraid they can't relocate their family seamlessly into the new home. That's the person that Revive really helps. It frees up that frozen piece of real estate, enables them to buy the new home. So we talk about how we can use Revive in their marketing to past clients, not to mine for buyers, but to mine for sellers. And we help them create that, we coach them to how to create that marketing content. And then I run them through conversions, and we say, what is your lead conversion strategy? And, usually is, well, we call them twice. And we go, okay, well, that's not really a lead conversion strategy. Let's play with that a little bit. And we run them through a little bit of lead conversion training. And we tell them that, look, if you call a lead within 5 minutes, you are 100% more likely than if you call them back within 30 minutes. And we walk them through the best times the optimal number of times to follow up with a client, which, by the way, is 6. You kind of get these increasing return on response up to 6, and then it's really minimal improvements after 6. And I say, well, how many leads do you think you're following up with 6 times? And they go, none. How many are you following up with? Well, 2 or 3. All right, well, then you would expect to have, potentially an 81% contact rate, which means you're leaving almost 15% on the table. And what days and what times? Oh, well, we don't really have a strategy around that. All right, well, according to the data, a bunch of data from Quicken, who reported some of this data, that Wednesdays and Thursdays are the best days to contact leads. And the best times are from 8 to 10 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. So when we go through this conversion, we get to the end and we say, do you think you could do this? How confident are you in your sales team to be able to drop everything and call Wednesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 10 and from 4 to 6 p.m.? They're like, it's impossible. And I'm like, great. That's what we're here for. That's what a great partner is here for. We're in our office. We can commit to calling those leads that we generate together on these times for maximized conversion. Go ahead, Danny.
Josh, I want to make sure that we leave time for the questions. And so actually, I see you just have one more slide, so I'll save until after that.
Cool. Yep, you bet. I'm wrapping up. And then I'll say, and I'll give you, and then I just say, as it relates to conversion, the number one tip that I can give you, as simple as this sounds, is to send a video text as soon as you're done with that first phone call, or if you get a voicemail. But immediately after a phone call, I will pick up my phone, pivot it against a wall, tell them how honored I am to have the opportunity to serve them. Getting you and your 2 kids into those bunk beds and out of the room with their big brother would absolutely make my heart sing, and excited for the next steps. And then reaffirm what that next step is and send them my contact card. But I have gotten in response pictures, videos, people that are saying that's awesome. And so this little conversion tool is something that everybody should start using right away. After every first phone call should go a very simple 30-second video text that creates connection between you and the client. So all these things that I just ran you through, and I'll turn this over to you, Danny, there's a process for it. And that process is very quickly, we teach our loan officers how to pitch a digital marketing audit to their realtors. I'll send this out to everybody. Then we send a digital marketing audit questionnaire to the realtor before we meet with them. And then lastly, when they meet with us, we walk them through this digital marketing strategy guide. And so we'll share all of this information with you. But just in summary, rather than go to spend, I immediately go to how do we build your business and how do we make sure you're in communication with your past clients?
So who here thinks, real quick, who here thinks that the realtor response is going to be, Josh, that's great, but I need $3,000 a month?
Yeah, no.
Anybody think that's going to happen?
Yeah. Who here is a little overwhelmed with implementing what Josh just presented?
Throwing daggers.
And yeah.
Yeah, here's what I'll offer to that though, Mark, really quickly, so we can open it up to questions. I think that the most important takeaway here is that answering the question yes to will you spend the $3,000 is like immediately answering the question, what's your rate? Right? Yeah. Like it's a sad question that you're being asked. Don't answer stupid questions, right? So what Josh just did is he said he used judo, right? He didn't punch him in the face and say, no, that's stupid. He used their energy to bring them into a position he wanted them to be in. And so he said, look, of course I want to spend money with you. Our whole business is about lead generation. However, don't we want the result, not that we want the lagging indicators. We don't want the leading indicators. Leading indicators is the activity. Lagging indicators is closings, right? So how do we get closings? We get closings by having all this real activity that happens. If we're going to make this spend, let's make sure it's a smart spend. Let's make sure we're ready to make the spend. And here's how we decide if we're ready to make the spend. You can do 10% of what Josh just showed, and it would still, if I was sitting there with no knowledge of a lead funnel, which unfortunately many of the referral partners don't deeply have, I would have my eyes open to the fact, like, you know what, Josh, that is probably stupid for us to spend that $3,000 until we decide who's going to call them. Like, let's answer that question first versus how we're going to put this money on the table. So that was, Josh, that last 10 minutes was solid gold. And I believe we could turn that into literally an entire another session. But with that said, Mark said we would have some time for Q&A here. Would love to have 1 or 2 questions from the group.
I owe you guys 9 minutes. Sorry, but Josh was on a freaking tear with solid gold information. Who has questions? I have a billion questions, so I'll stay quiet. I'd rather just address stuff from you guys.
I would say a lot of things that Ryan pointed out and that Josh pointed out, most of the realtors, they don't even know where their stuff comes from. And I think that's eye-opening if you actually share with them and open our eyes to go, you're spending X amount of dollars. What's your ROI on this? Because both y'all are right. Most realtors have no effing idea. Like it's very hard for them to analyze that. So I think just simply pointing that out to go, oh, you're spending, you know, $3,000 on Zillow for one sale. But the interesting thing that you mentioned is if a realtor makes 2 sales off Zillow, they're already overpaid. I mean, they made, let's say $40,000 off 2 sales. And if I made one deal and I made $5,000, they still consider that a win. But for me, that's a total loss. So it's interesting to teach basic mathematics to realtors because I think they have a hard time understanding that. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I thought the approach was slick from Ryan, but Josh's approach was simple because most realtors understand Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and they realize that that's what you can reach out for, and it's relatively very inexpensive. So I think it's a blending of both the cultures combined.
It's a really good point. And I think just answering the question with you know, basic business entrepreneurship versus yes or no is going to put you in a position of power, and it's going to make them respect you more in your practice, right? Who else?
Or can I, first, Ryan, I really appreciated everything you had to say. I have one joint marketing partner and I get at least 1 deal a month, and my spend is like $500, so it's pretty good. But Josh, where could I learn more about, or where could I invest and learn more about like the Facebook stuff and the Instagram stuff that you just mentioned? How can I learn more about it? Because I'm not that smart when it comes to that stuff.
If that's a popular topic, we would love to, you know, I've got Colin and Zeph on with us that are our marketing pioneers, marketing rock stars. We could have them come back and just teach a specific class on how to upload a database, how to create a business page, how to upload a database, and how to create a campaign. And we could probably do that in 30 minutes. And that would be really easy for you to take to your realtors. But what might be interesting is just for us to go through our digital marketing audit and just see how we run realtors through that, and then what we prescribe afterwards. So we can definitely go deeper on it.
Could you do both in an hour, Josh? The audit and the campaign?
What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, the actual Facebook custom audience implementation stuff probably shouldn't take very long, and then we can get our man Mr. Vass in and go through the actual audit pretty quickly.
So cool. You think an hour for both, Seth, or should we do a special 1 hour, 15 minute?
I think we could probably get it done in an hour. Maybe yeah, I think we could get it done.
Guys, can you drop a yes or no? Either one is fine into the chat box. If you'd like us to set that up, and no, if you don't, if you'd rather stay more tactical. Okay, it looks pretty clear that that's
pretty unanimous here, guys. I
think the yeas win.
I feel like we've tapped into a nerve here.
Cool. All right, some takeaways. Ryan, the way you described your arc, I feel like is exactly where I was, right? At the beginning, I was like, you know, as soon as I figured out how much money was, it was $100, I was in. I didn't care about the ROI. I just wanted to say yes. And then I got to a point where it was like, man, these things don't work most of the time. I'm just going to say no because I'm not connected to those people. All they want is money. To, okay, let's evaluate, is this a true business decision? And if I'm one of you on the call that's at the beginning of my career, I spoke with Steven Ramirez yesterday, who has a really good marketing background. And I was thinking of how he could literally leverage this into, you know, obtaining realtor partners by becoming exactly what Josh explained at the end. But, you know, I've been in this a long time, and it's, you know, we're at different points in our career where you feel like you can take something like that on. And a lot of you are just treading water. Like, you don't have a big team, you're solo practitioners. Like, taking this on is like, Mount Everest. And so I think no matter where you're at, if you can simply take away, the responses that, especially that Ryan and Josh pointed out, with starting with the divorce rather than, starting with the marriage. Hey, you know what? I'd love to sit down and evaluate this. If we can, let's meet. Let's talk about the ROI that you're getting on your current spend and how we might be able to improve that. And let's talk about what it looks like when we check in 90 days and 6 months. And what comes up for me in this conversation is that if it's not working for you and it's not working for me, that we pivot or we unplug, because the last thing I would want you to do is to spend money on something that doesn't work, or some takeaway line. Like get that portion really clear so that you're not coming back with just a yes or no. I think was really great advice in this. Any other major takeaways that you guys want to point out, Ryan and Josh, especially to those of us that might not have the mega teams that you guys have? Like maybe we're just solo practitioners, that doesn't have a team built out.
Yeah, I got to run to my next call real quick, but I'll just leave everybody with this. Like, Danny's comment here, consistent execution is more valuable than a perfect strategy on day one. You don't have to be perfect. Just be curious. Someone asked a question. The best way to answer it is, yeah, I'm always wide open to seeing at how I can invest in our business and others. I'd love to schedule some time so I can ask you some questions and learn more about the return on investment, the strategy, and the partnership. And then, take some time, go work on that, watch this video again, get all of everything prepped, and then go back to them. You don't need to try and answer it in that meeting, because you're going to be in that kind of fight or flight mode, like, oh crap, I have to say yes or no right now. And you don't have to, right? Any good business person is typically going to analyze an investment opportunity well before they make the decision.
Ryan, I'll be over there in just a few minutes, bud. Thanks so much. Peace out.
Bye, gang.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think it goes back to controlling the variables. And if you control the variables, so you set the stage for the relationship as early as possible, that this isn't a transactional thing for me if we're going to enter into a partnership, that this is a relational thing, and all relationship have rules. Every relationship has rules, right? We can't just, there's rules between you and your spouse. There should be rules between us and our business partners. So I think that's probably a good place to leave it. And then we can potentially go deeper on this on the next mastermind.
Okay, guys, really quick. Our next mastermind is on October 7th at 10. And what we'll try to put together is either a continuation of this conversation or getting Josh's marketing team set up to teach us this. It's actually the Q&A webinar. So maybe we can just dovetail the Q&A that we didn't have a lot of time on here. And then the next one after that, we'll set up the marketing team. So October 7th, this is one of those periods where it's 3 weeks away at 10 a.m. Please spread the word. The better coverage we get and the more amazing mortgage minds we get into this room, the better we're all going to be. Appreciate you all. And I hope you have a great 3 weeks.